In the know, non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
It's on to the Chargers.
On to the Chargers.
I'm only talking about the Chargers.
On to where are they now? Los Angeles. On to Los Angeles.
On to Los Angeles. LAC.
Chargers.
Everyone's coping here with an 0-2 Viking start. Everyone had high hopes off a 13-win season. There's still plenty of season left. I mean, it's only 2 games out of 17, but only like 9% of 0-2 teams go on to make the playoffs, so they're facing that uphill climb here. This is a Feedback Friday on a Saturday, gentlemen, because the week is weird and wonky with the Thursday game. It's presented by TCL. No matter what you watch, TCL has award-winning TVs for any budget, any space, always stunning picture quality. And TCL makes more than just TVs, too. They offer mobile products, audio devices, and home appliances. TCL brings you joy and simplicity through innovative technology. You can learn more at TCL.com. Let's get right to the feedback here, shall we? We collect all of your comments, questions, concerns, critiques. We get to as many of them as possible every week. We try to make Purple Daily and Vikings Ventline the most fan-friendly and interactive show where you guys are coming on Ventline, you're coming on Write That Down, you're sending us stuff on Feedback Friday, and we just love you guys being a part of this community here, especially when we all need therapy like right now. So Ryan Cruz says, I don't care what anyone says. This team looks really good. The defense makes plays we literally never saw last year. Them poor bleepers were gassed by the second half, and the Eagles knew it. At one point in the first half, I swear we forgot we had an offense. The offense literally looks like it can move the ball almost at will through the air. The only thing is some of these I got to prove something players are trying to get too cute. Honestly, if we quit making butterfingers commercials during the game and quit fumbling, and Osborn would just focus on catching the rock instead of trying to focus on making a play after the catch, we would be almost unstoppable. So let's peel back the layer here of this team does look pretty good in some certain parts. So how much can we take from that?
Well, I think you can take something from it, but I think the key thing is through 2 games, it's errors and inconsistency, right? Now, I will say this, and we talked about this on the live Purple Daily that we did on Friday. I am concerned that the run defense got exposed on Thursday night to the point where it's going to be a problem now because that's on film. And I don't know how quickly you can fix that. And if you do fix that, is it going to come at the expense of the pass defense, which, Brian Flores, I give him a lot of credit. He's doing exactly what we thought Donatel would do, which is he's getting creative with things. It doesn't always work. But I think 2 things are true here. One is this offense, there is no reason why it can't be consistently explosive. I think they're going about it at times the wrong way. I would like to see more creativity from O'Connell and scheming guys open, but Kirk's off to a good start. Yes, he has fumbled twice and thrown a pick, but he also has played well. I certainly don't blame him for what transpired on Thursday in Philadelphia. And the consistency is key. And I think we've also seen that this team has done enough where if they can clean some of this crap up, they could have won both games. It's weird because the errors and the mistakes make both games, at least at some point in time, it feels like, man, they really lost that game. But then if you look at the final scores and the opportunities, they could have won both those games. And in this league, that margin, you guys, is incredibly close. Like if you go into games being like, this is going to be a high-flying circus and we're going to look perfect, this is the wrong sport. So I do agree, all hope is not lost, but when it comes to the offensive and defensive lines, I have real fears that by not improving them more in the offseason, it's going to continue to bite you in the ass now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the defense, I was trying to pull up at least like first quarter stats just through the first 2 games, a small sample size, but it seems like the first quarter of both games so far against the Bucs and Eagles, the Vikings defense has done its job and then some. They gave up the big play, obviously, the 50-yard bomb against the Eagles, but after that, they were stout. They stopped them. They had red zone stops. They did all the things they were supposed to do, and I'm trying to weigh, is the defense being out there for so long just being eventually exposed, and they're out there for so long, you get tired. It's hard to play defense for that amount of time. And also at the same time, is Brian Flores coming up with a really good scripted game plan early, and are things going off the rails because he doesn't have any counterpunch? And again, or is it just that they're on the field for so much by the end of the first half where they're just gashed? So it's even with just the 2 games, I think there's been good signs in the defense, but I still have some questions remaining on it if it can be taken seriously or not.
Yeah, and realistically, we expected this defense to be certainly more aggressive and entertaining to watch and just completely different stylistically. It wasn't going to go from 31st in yardage to 3rd. So they're going to have especially against really good offenses, they're going to have some clunker games or some clunker halves. They're not just going to be, lights out, now you're the Jets defense overnight. There's too many young, inexperienced players. There's not enough great talent among the down linemen. On the offensive front, man, they've been able to carve the ball through the air, and it's amazing. They've had 2 passing touchdowns taken away at the goal line in the first 2 games. KJ Osborn with the interception, the back shoulder throw that everyone's debating whose fault was it, and then Justin Jefferson catches that pass and fumbles to the back of the end zone. So, and they're still scoring points. I mean, they're moving the ball through the air at will. They can't run the ball. But who is stopping that trio of weapons? Meaning, when I say trio, I mean Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. And now KJ Osborn's off to a kind of a bad start. But as your 4th option, or if at some point Jalen Naylor becomes your 4th option or whoever, they've got some guys to throw to. And so, yeah, there is some stuff to hang your hat on here, and they got to get a win pretty quickly or it's not going to matter. That's the problem.
And if you can start to run, because right now the Vikings are trying to, and they should run play action, but it's not respected.
Yeah.
But if they start to have a semblance, I'm not even talking really good, I'm talking a semblance of a run game, those receivers become even more dangerous. And so, like, there are things, the one thing, and this is a stat that I know some fans hate, but I feel like the eye test and the actual stat in the stat sheet from Thursday corresponds here. Time of possession, okay? Time of possession in that game on Thursday. Philadelphia, 39-28. Vikings, 20-32. And to Declan's point, when you're continually putting your defense back out there and out there and out there, and they're not great to begin with, that's a huge ask. But I feel like that's one where if you can't run the ball, you can't possess it.
Yeah.
And that's not even talking about the fact that they fumbled the ball away 4 times. That's just you've got to eat up clock with the run game. And through 2 games, it's been hopeless.
John Jackson says, hey, there's been a lot of talk calling for Kwesi's head over bad drafts. I believe his first draft seems to be a bust, but here's something to think about, or ponder, if you will. Pun intended.
Don't use that word.
Kwesi was hired. He had to hire a head coach, put together a staff while leaving some of Rick's staff in place, Rick Spielman's staff. He had to do all of this and prepare for the draft in less than 2 months. I believe he probably relied on Rick's scouts and all the reports they had. He definitely failed this past offseason to fix the O-line, but he's dealing with cap issues, so I'm not ready to call for his firing yet. We need to give him a few years to at least judge his drafts and free agent signings. I will say one thing here where I disagree with John here. First of all, of course, you're not going to fire all the scouts and hire new scouts in the 2 weeks leading up to the draft. That's unrealistic. So, of course, you're going to keep some of Rick's staff. To act like, well, I mean, he had Rick Spielman's scouts in the room, therefore they're all just incompetent idiots. No, I mean, those are NFL scouts. And Rick Spielman did have some good moments in the draft. Rick Spielman was not a bad drafter. He had a couple bad drafts here and there. But some of Rick Spielman nailed Christian Darrisaw, Justin Jefferson, Daniil Hunter. I mean, he knows what he's looking at a little bit. And to act like those scouts are, well, I mean, Kwesi failed because of Rick's scouts, Those are not bad scouts, okay?
Kwesi also traded back from 12 to 32.
And got a fifth-string cornerback.
Like, Rick didn't come in and say, you got to trade back. Like, if you're going to do that and get cute, that's fine, but it's got to work to a certain degree. And when really your first 3 picks of an entire draft into year 2 are either can't play or are considered by us unplayable, yeah, I'm not going to blame Spielman. I mean, that draft, I've tried to be patient, but we talked about this on Ventline after the game on Thursday. I mean, at some point in time, you just say, my God, you aren't getting anything. They won't put Lewisine in a football game.
No. Meanwhile, Kyle Hamilton continues to be one of the best young safeties in the NFL for the Baltimore Ravens. And you could have just had, if you wanted to draft a safety in the first round, you could. I get what Kwesi was thinking is, well, okay, if we're going to draft a safety in the first round, maybe we can pick up an extra like second round pick or whatever it is. And then he would probably say, well, it's unlikely that both Scene and Booth, or I can't remember like which pick they used on who, but let's say Scene and Booth would both, or Ingram, whatever, would both be busts. But they are. So you can say, well, it was a statistical or market oddity that happened, but it was the right process. Well, at the end of the day, like, you need good football players, and you're not going to be able to sit in a room with the Wolves after a third draft or something and say, but our process was on point.
Well, okay. and in what process do you take a safety then? Like, if you had taken Hamilton at 12, I think that would have upset some, but he was clearly the best in that class, right? So he was what I would consider to be a known commodity. But okay, so you go back to 32 and you still take a safety?
Yeah.
That's not a position I'm drafting a first round pick at unless I'm sure that guy might be headed to Canton.
Yeah, we've talked about this too, like safeties and guards. Obviously, positions you need all positions in football, but safeties and guards early in the draft. God, if you whiff on those,
Got me worked up on a Saturday. Here I was going to have a good day. Now I'm just pissed.
It's funny, you're wearing the same thing you wore on Friday too.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't slept.
I haven't showered.
I don't sleep. Not after losses. It's on to the Chargers.
It is interesting though from the Kwesi side, because like when you're looking at analytics, and I feel like obviously Billy Beane with the A's is kind of and the A's in general are the poster boy for Moneyball, and it turned into a film and all this stuff. But Billy Beane was a washout first-round pick that was a huge bust, but was a baseball player who then had a limited cap space and had to figure out how to maximize talent for cost per dollar. He hires Paul DePodesta as kind of being the more analytically, definitely driven guy that could be convinced that, no, you should actually be looking at this type of stuff. It's just a very interesting approach because the Vikings kind of have the opposite. They have the analytics nerd who didn't play football on the top. And then they have Ryan Grigson, who is a former general manager that kind of flamed out too. I don't know if the order of operations is the best way to go about that in that situation. It's still early, but I do find that two differences to be pretty stark.
Would you guys right now, if I said you have to pick one or the other to lead this front office for the next 3 years, and that person has to be in charge going forward, would you rather have Kwesi or Rick Spielman?
I thought you were going to say Grigson.
I thought you were going to say Kwesi.
No, I don't need. I don't think Grigson. I don't think you're elevating Grigson. Maybe, I don't know, but
man.
Because you kind of Rick Spielman went into work on a Monday in January, and he thought me and the Wolves are going to fire Mike Zimmer today, and we are going to pick a new coach.
Yeah.
And he lost his job too. It was the final scene in The Departed. But if you could give the toxic relationship was Zimmer and Spielman, and Zimmer's gone. Spielman, I don't know that people were like wringing their hands to fire Spielman as much as they were Zimmer at the end of that run.
They probably weren't. The fan base, I think, was glad to see him go. But yeah, I mean, he did show up for work that day expecting. In fact, he had started the coaching search. Which I don't think would have been Kevin O'Connell if it had been Rick. But
what do you think it would have been? It wouldn't have been Harbaugh either, probably. Well, it would have been, would have been, what's his name? Doug Peterson. But then Doug Peterson had a chance to go work with Trevor Lawrence, and it might have been game over.
I'll take Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
All right.
Joe Brown says, by the way, I think I'd take Spielman. I
don't like either choice. I don't know which one I take at this point.
Joe Brown says a lot of fans are calling for Kwesi's head over. Wait, did we already read this one? No, it's a second Kwesi one. A lot of fans are calling for Kwesi's head over the draft from 2 years ago. I, however, do not put the Scene and Booth picks on Kwesi. I put them on old Ed Donishell. I think Kwesi gives the coaches a lot of say in the draft. KOC clearly got his way with Addison and Jaron Hall. Compare the defensive players picked under Donatel versus the defensive players picked and signed under Flores. I think Flores identified these players. Think about Ivan Pace and some other guys. But if that's the case, if you're saying, okay, Ed, tell us who to pick in the first, second rounds, and then you're moving on from that scheme after 1 year, it's still just like
It wasn't Donatel. Booth was them. Booth was, they said the odds are a kid who I believe his injury history, if I'm not mistaken, went back to high school. They basically said, we think he'll stay healthy. And he hasn't yet, and he's not played well. You know what, though? So if Donatel had a say in a safety, my guess is he would have told Kwesi, Kyle Hamilton at 12, right?
Yeah.
So, no, this is on Kwesi. This is not, like, we can do all the mental gymnastics that we want. This is on Kwesi.
Elliot Hicks says, are the problems in the run game due to poor run blocking, or do the Vikings need to look into a new running back before the trade deadline? I love Madison. I know he was signed with the intention of being RB1, but he hasn't shown he can be productive, and Jonathan Taylor is looking really appealing. And then Brad in Vadnais Heights says, if we aren't tanking, go get Leonard Fournette. He's affordable. We need a real running back. And then get 3M to create a sticky solution for our turnover woes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, would you, well, there's a difference between trading for Jonathan Taylor and signing Leonard Fournette.
Yes.
I would be open to signing Leonard Fournette.
Hell, Kareem Hunt. They had him in for a workout, too.
Yeah, they've considered it.
Yeah.
This is why I want to hear Boone's breakdown. I want an expert to tell me how much of this is on whom.
Yeah.
That's what I don't know. And I'm not saying, Madison's off to a terrible start, so I'm not trying to absolve him, but the run game has a lot of components to it. And I'm just curious, if you plugged Fournette in, does he get a lot more yards per game? Is the blocking not sufficient? I have to think, because if I'm not mistaken, Phil, Bradbury grades out pretty well in the run game, correct? It was the pass protection where he is. I got to think Schlottman is falling well short of where Bradbury was.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things here. But, Booney can tell us for sure what's what. But, this run game is unworkable right now.
Maybe what we do is, I'm going to make a note, because I'll be cutting some of this. Because Boone will join us on Monday for a little trenches action. Do you guys want to just do, a run game cut up? Just let's look at, I know that they're moving the ball through the air, but what if we just looked at, I don't know, 8 run plays that aren't working? Why aren't they working?
Well, and that's all run plays basically, right?
Yeah, they've only run 26 times.
Just pick the run plays and be like, hey, Rhino, why does this suck?
All right, run game cut up for Boone, putting it on my little to-do list here. All right, Feedback Friday on a Saturday continues with Ivan Wilson sitting here with a belly full of Chinese food from the one and only Wally's, excuse me, in Canby, Oregon. Hold on. My voice is hanging by a thread here.
What happened to Phil?
There we go. I'm okay.
You scream at TV last night?
A little bit. Yep. And allergies. Once the temperature drops for the first time, it's it's just like 4 days of allergies for me.
I'm better now, but 3 weeks ago, whenever that last, was it the joint practice with that 50-mile-an-hour gust of winds that dropped the temperature 30 degrees in 12 hours, that was my worst day.
Yeah.
So Ivan is sitting with a belly full of Chinese food, trying to digest it and see what's happening here with the Vikings. I could go many places, but I'll stick with these two. One, what happened to winning in the eights? So the final four and the final four of the first half and the first four of the second half. Yeah, they fumbled in the eights twice yesterday.
Yeah.
And two, is this team soft? SAWFT, soft. Love your shows, as does my wife. We catch them daily on YouTube. We made a trip with son and daughter-in-law to Minneapolis last year for Thanksgiving, and the Patriots game. Had a great time. Looking forward to hitting your draft party next year. Do you guys think this team is SAWFT soft?
The Lions are, and that's where it starts. That's where the smash mouth, gritty, in the dirt, you're an SOB starts. So yes, they are soft. The interior of the offensive line is soft. I think there's no question about that. And when you get done to the tune of, hold on a second, wait for it, I have to find it, 259 yards rushing, your defensive line is soft. Yes, I think they're soft. Every run, it felt like, with Swift and the Eagles on Thursday, got to put your hand on the button, because I'm about to say it, the second level. Every damn time. Football. Cam Bynum had 15 tackles, you guys. Football! I mean, how many times was a safety wrapping up a running back? Yes, soft.
Patrick Jones and Dean Lowry are not working, especially Dean Lowry.
What do they see in Dean Lowry?
I
He's
have
just
no
kind
idea.
of he's a guy, man. He's just like he's a football player that has played football, and he's on your team. Like that's what he is.
James Lynch was superior to Dean Lowry.
It's not a bad point. Zach Jenner says, is it just me, or is the Vikings defense missing that one crazy guy? Similar to you, I became a Vikings fan in the 90s and watched John Randall on the field. Later, in NFL films, he was just all hype all the time. Then we had the Williams Wall and crazy Jared Allen hog-tying quarterbacks. And then we went right into Everson Griffin, who may not be a Hall of Famer and wasn't maybe as talented, but he was crazy. Judd can probably enlighten me about the great teams of yesteryear. Dude, well, Keith Millar was crazy back in the 80s.
Keith Millar, absolutely crazy. My arms
are we just
bigger than
lacking
your guns.
A crazy guy?
No, what you're lacking is a hoss in the middle of the defensive line. I don't care if he's crazy or not. You're
Chris
lacking.
Hovan was kind of crazy too, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he wasn't that good. But I mean, you're lacking a Jerry Ball. You're lacking what the Vikings need is for a big man who plays the nose to get cut so they can claim him and plug him in.
Or draft one.
Well, but I'm just saying, no, but if for this year, you need a big hoss. You need a guy that can basically eat up space. Gilbert Brown.
So you're hoping that like a fat guy gets cut because he's not good enough and he can come and save the Vikings interior defense.
Sometimes fat guys get cut. When I was covering the Packers in 2003, I think the Saints had a falling out with a guy by the name of Grady Jackson, just a big man. Packers picked him up. Great. You know why? Because he'd stand there and the A-gap disappeared.
It is funny, though, how in the NFL, it's really like one of the few sports you can't just go and find someone off the street or make an early trade like you can in baseball or hockey or have a farm system where you can
baseball's like, our bullpen's shot. Okay, whatever. We'll just trade for three relievers at the deadline. Yeah. Or not. If you're the Twins.
Or you just be like, oh, whatever.
James Rydell says, I think it's time we give Judd his due credit. A majority of wow. University of Minnesota education here. I can read, I promise. A majority of us crowned KOC a great coach at the end of last season. He seemed like he had proven himself. Meanwhile, Judd consistently wanted to wait to decide on KOC. We now know, or we are now at that point. It's easy to look like a good coach when you're winning, but now that the chips are down, we can truly see how KOC handles it. In this way, I will view the 0-2 start a blessing. KOC has to accept blame for his failures the last month. I'm actually excited. Let's all learn from the sports dad who's been through this pain more than we will ever know.
Yeah, I mean, we do. And look, I go back as recently as 2019 with Rocco Baldelli. In 2019, he looked like a genius. I mean, everything was humming along, Bomba Squad, playoff team. We didn't get the first inkling that there might be something amiss, at least a little bit, until the playoff series against the Yankees. So, you know, KFC's not the same personality as Baldelli at all, but they're both young, and guys like that aren't going to be perfect. And the thing that I think the parallel is this, and this is the interesting thing I think to watch now, okay? Baldelli came in and basically did a good job. Players, manager, I always felt in 2019, Nelson Cruz ran the clubhouse and Baldelli assisted, but he didn't really have to run it.
Yeah.
And he gave everybody leeway, and they seemed to really appreciate that in 19. And as we went on, it felt like at times certain people started to take advantage of that. Kevin O'Connell runs a very similar ship, and he is the and this is very football, anti-Zimmer, right? And so I feel like last year was a breath of fresh air, but you know, it feels like with guys like that, you always go from, man, it's great to play for you. I love you. I'll let's go to war together, to, oh, I can get away with this. I can get away with that. And so that's why I think we need to see this progress, because, you know, at some point in time, it's a cliche and it might be boring, but accountability can become important. So now what does KOC do? I mean, they have lost seven combined fumbles and picks in 2 games.
Yeah, I think you have to chop a guy's finger off at the practice.
I told you guys what I would do.
Did you chop a guy's hand off to send a message?
I would not.
Myles Gaskin, come over here, buddy.
Everybody would get a football with super glue and for the next 10 days until I surgically remove those footballs.
How does the super glue help you in a game though? Because you can't use super glue
around.
No.
Because you know why? Because the next time you fumble, whole team's going to do it again. I'm going to coach through.
I chop a guy's arm off just to, hey, listen, the ball is the program here.
The next series of Saw is being filmed at TCO Performance Center right now. Victor the Vikings got that thing around his neck right now. He's trying to figure out which finger he has to cut off so he can get the key that's in his finger to
Sorry, Brandon Powell. Yeah. Sorry, guy. Oh, sorry, buddy.
How do you drop that ball? How do you get that ball punched out?
If you do still ride with this team and ride with the coach, you can get your cheap plug. I will ride with this group Purple Daily shirts over at scorenorth.com/shop. That's scorenorth.com/shop, where you can also find our collectibles wing. Jordan Addison with his second touchdown of the season. We have a signed custom Jordan Addison jersey.
Going to Canton.
We've got, by the way, I'm told that the Bud Grant autographed framed pictures are not sold out. There was a note that they were sold out. They are not sold out. You can get one of those for your man cave, for your office. scorenorth.com/shop. Click on collectibles for those items and use promo code SCORE, SKOR, at checkout for 10% off, courtesy of our friends at Universal Sports Auctions. Judd, let's also tell the audience how they can get in the best shape or at least get to the best weight that makes them feel good.
Oh, that is as simple as can be, because that is what my friends at Livia Weight Control Centers are going to do for you. Look at that right there. That guy, he had dropped 40 pounds, and you can do the exact same. So you know what? All those clothes that don't fit now, or the frustration when you look in the mirror and see weight gain, all of that can go away with a program that has for 3 consecutive years now been voted the best weight loss program in the entire state. In the state, 3 consecutive years. Right now, if you join, by the way, 3 months for free. That's right, 3 months for free. You're going to drop weight. You're going to be started on a journey that's going to help you feel good and look good. And the first 3 months are going to be free. And right now you're saying, tell me more. How do I contact them? It's very, very simple. 855-GO-LIVEA, Livia.com. By the way, the entire thing can be done virtually. So if you're a frustrated Vikings fan who's trying to lose weight in Florida, don't despair. Livia.com, Livea.com is where your weight loss journey is going to start.
A freaking men. Let's see here. What do we got for feedback? Caleb Stansberry. He says, can we please talk about why KJ Osborn is still the number 2 wide receiver when a blocking tight end has better hands than him? Why are they keeping KJ on the field when he can't catch unless it's a wide open touchdown? This is a KOC problem. Drop him to 3rd, put Jordan at 2. After watching this game, the turnovers are the biggest problem. Yes, the O-line is bad, but we could still win with it. I mean, at this point, when they run 2 wide receiver sets, Jordan Addison has to be the second wide receiver, right?
This is feeling very reminiscent of the BC Johnson over Justin Jefferson thing from 3 years ago. Little different circumstance. KJ was a little more established. I think BC was coming off a solid rookie season, but should not have been getting more reps and more targets than Justin Jefferson the first couple games. This feels awfully similar. And KJ had a hell of a camp. Judd saw that as well. It looked like he was even going to be primed for maybe even another half step forward in his production, but it's pretty clear KJ Osborn is mostly just a 3rd wide receiving option on any good team.
Is him starting the season as the 2 and Addison being the 3, is that an O'Connell thing, or is that an O'Connell thing because Kirk likes it? It feels like Kirk has a trust in KJ, and it's like, okay, dude, you know what? That's fine, but this guy is superior. I mean, Jordan Addison, in my opinion, with what we've seen, has the ability to be a star. I'm not saying he's Jefferson, but if this kid can stay on the field, he's doing things that are special, and he makes them look effortless. In the case of BC Johnson over Jefferson, I think that was Zimmer and that whole regime being like, you got to earn it, kid, which is just a stupid thing to say to a potential superstar. But I don't think Kevin O'Connell offensively is stupid. So I almost feel like this might be, Kirk, I really like KJ. I mean, I really trust him. I mean, KJ Osborn can do some things well, but 1, he's not a 2. They've got a 2. I don't know that KJ Osborn is like an improvement on Jarius Wright, who I also like. Nice little player.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like this is a Kirk trust thing. I really trust this guy.
I'm going to lash out right now. So we put our necks on the line every Wednesday. People always know how wrong we are when we do our Wednesday write that down predictions and an accountability session. Yep. People were screenshotting the bloodbath of Wednesday this last week. Yeah, saw it going around Twitter. These guys look all wrong they are. Right?
Hilarious.
So we're just out there. We're just exposed for being frauds all the time. One of my least favorite takes from fans around draft time, when we were talking about who they should draft in the first round, and we were like, man, they could use a number 2 receiver. Thielen, cooked, gone, right? Like, who's the number 2 receiver? And people are like, KJ Osborn.
Is that the noise they made?
KJ Osborn's the number 2 wide receiver. It's stupid to draft a wide receiver. It's stupid to draft a wide receiver when you have KJ Osborn as your number 2. He's a perfectly fine number 2. Not if you want a high-octane, high-powered, explosive offense. And I think he's going to settle in. I think he's fine as a 3. He's just off to a weird start. Jordan Addison is a true number 2 wide receiver, it appears, right? And now you're sort of seeing the way that he has been able to take the top off the defense in a couple ways. 2 post-route touchdowns that were nice. I think they were both explosive plays, right?
Exactly what they expected from him.
So you were wrong, people that thought we hold you accountable.
That's great. They were screenshotting those. Oh my God, mine on the one was just awful. I'm sure that got screenshotted.
Yeah, with the tiny font.
Don't forget, I'm very sensitive, people. I'm very sensitive. My
Speak for yourself. I'm on top.
Yeah.
Ben Marcinov says, boys, it's not looking good for the mission statement this season. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. Makes me start to think about how the Lions look good and could honestly win this division if they keep it up. My question is, if the football gods give us the ultimate screw job and give the Lions a Lombardi before the Vikings, what is the perception of the Vikings going to be as the only team in the division to never have won the Super Bowl? How would you all feel?
Oh my God, I need more time to process that question to answer it truthfully.
Oh my God.
I mean, if Detroit won a Super Bowl,
they're more likely to win it this year than the Vikings are at this point.
Yeah, but I need to process how I would feel.
Yeah.
Like they've won one game. Granted, it was impressive, but it's one game. But if they actually won a Super Bowl, the therapist would need therapy.
Yeah, who does the therapist talk to?
I don't know who I'd talk to, but I mean, that would be unbelievable.
Yeah, it would give me a little bit of optimism, but also rage because teams like the Cubs have won a World Series. Now the Lions have won a World Series. Even pent-up Twins frustration. Every team in the AL Central since 2005 has been to the World Series but the Twins, and everyone the AL Central's terrible. All those teams have gone to the World Series in the last 15, 16 years, and the Twins haven't even won a GD playoff game during the same stretch with multiple division champions. So there's part of me is like, oh no, they can do it, but then part of me is also like, God, everyone else is doing it. Why can't we do it?
I still, man, like the Lions are not to be taken lightly, but I still have a really hard time. You know how if you start to envision like, could you envision a Timberwolves player holding up an LOB at the end of the NBA season? It's like hard to even process what that looks like.
No, not yet. I can't.
It's hard to process a Lions player holding up a Super Bowl trophy. And it might be hard for the Vikings too, but it's easier for the Vikings because they've at least come close a bunch of times. The Lions have not come close, really, ever.
I mean, the absolute rage factor of the Detroit Lions going to a Super Bowl for the first time in their franchise history and holding that trophy up, in the Vikings. I mean, I need a lot of time to process this.
Okay, this one comes from, it doesn't come directly to the show, but Declan saw this one from a friend of the show, Mike Greenberg, this week. So there was a Tampa Bay Rays player, I think it was against the Twins, actually. He suffered a testicular contusion.
I was there for it.
Yeah, John was there.
Yeah.
Was there blood?
No, he fouled the ball. I think it hit home plate, bounced up, hit him in the testicle, and he stayed in the game, actually, I think, for a little while before.
And he ran out. Didn't he run out to first on the ground ball?
Yeah, it was Diaz, right? Yeah. I think it was the first baseman, Yandy Diaz, who's a nice player with a bruised ball.
So Greeny said, would you rather? So Greeny's favorite team is the Jets, and this is after they lost Aaron Rodgers to a torn Achilles. Would you rather suffer a testicular contusion yourself or lose your starting quarterback to an Achilles injury in a season in which you think your team can win the Super Bowl?
Not even close for me. Bye, Kirk. Not even close. I'm not.
But
no,
what if it was like, what if you were
Oh,
what if you're the Buffalo Bills and they got beaten
Chiefs,
week 1.
Mahomes.
The Chiefs and Mahomes.
no, I'm not going.
You already
through
have
that pain.
2 though. With
I guess
with
that's
them,
right.
you
Yeah,
know.
the Bills one's probably better. I guess. Yeah.
To what?
Just
Oh.
throw me in the trash if I have a testicular contusion. I'm good. I do not want to even experience that. That sounds like the worst pain. It gives you the willies. It literally gives you
Well.
the willies just thinking about it.
Don't forget about Garver though. That was way worse. He had to go in for surgery.
Yeah.
When Garver took the foul ball to the groin while catching in Baltimore,
Yeah, man.
and he was lost for a long time, and he had to have immediate surgery.
He also had a vocal cord surgery too. Hey guys, nice day at the
Dude.
ballpark here today. Hey,
Dude, it's just
we're
that's
gonna
awful.
win
No,
Twins.
no,
We're gonna
no.
score.
Traded to Texas. What are you talking about?
Greg Littleton says, I love the Vikings vent line after Vikings games. Would you guys consider doing something similar after Twins games during the playoffs or after critical games in series during the season? Thanks for bringing back the Score North Twin Show. Listen, Vikings fans, if you are also a Twins fan, and I know that Venn diagram overlaps quite a bit here, maybe not as much as we thought. There's a lot of Vikings fans that are just Vikings fans.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But if that Venn diagram overlaps for you, we have brought back the Score North Twin Show a couple months ago. Apple, Spotify, Score North YouTube channel. And yes, for the playoff games, we will absolutely be doing a Twins vent line on our other YouTube channel. And you can find it on demand on the Score North Twin Show. So we're here for you. We're certified therapists across multiple different fields here. Football, Vikings, Twins, as needed.
Although if the Twins lose, Declan might just melt down entirely.
It'll be Declan vent line, just a
yeah.
live cam in his
I feel
home
like Declan's
studio.
investment in Twins playoff games is probably the highest of anyone on the show for any particular team.
Yep. I have no. I think I know why. I shouldn't say I don't know why. I just get so hyped for playoff baseball, and especially when it's your team. The stakes are so high, the tensity is at an all-time high. I am a horrible person and individual myself during those games. The worst version of myself.
So how about
is
Vikings
Twins
playoff
game?
games?
No, fine.
I mean, the
Fine.
intensity of those is pretty damn high.
And Wild, I guess Wild, like the Wild have won playoff games, and I'm definitely frustrated. And they're not at the Twins level, but I mean they've lost like 7 straight first round series, but they know how to win a playoff game, and it doesn't. I don't get as angry at the Wild, even though they've also disappointed me. There's just something about playoff baseball that turns me into the worst version of myself.
They're really excited to see this play out here in a couple of weeks.
I've seen
starting
2
first week in
World
October.
Series, so I'm good.
That's nice. Good for you.
I'm good.
Really happy for you.
I've seen 2 celebrations.
Yeah.
I'm all good.
And the Declan hasn't. I was alive for the first 2 World Series, but I don't remember 87. I vaguely remember 91. So I don't like ride or die. And my emotions are pretty even keel after having been bludgeoned for 18 straight playoff games. I go in bracing and knowing, I'm going to get slapped and it's going to be fine. We'll come out of it and try again in game 2. Or you could just go play the lottery instead. You go Minnesota Lottery, Vikings scratch off tickets. That's a good way to have fun and pass the time between football games.
And guess what? The Vikings might have let you down on Thursday, but with their scratch game, you have a chance to help the Vikings or help yourself have the Vikings make you a winner. You could win up to $100,000 or second chance prizes, including season tickets or an away game trip. That is officially exciting. The Minnesota Lottery, just say I'm in, must be 18 or older to play. So again, the Vikings let you down Thursday, but give them a second chance with that scratch game from the Minnesota Lottery.
Hey, give Federated a chance as well. If you're a business owner out there, Federated is all about helping you elevate and maximize your business through risk management tools and resources. They believe their value is measured by the success of their clients. So Federated is here as a guiding hand, as a great offensive line for your business, matriculating down the field of business and life. Federatedinsurance.com to find a full list of all the industries they specialize in. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. There is your Feedback Friday on a Saturday. We'll have Purple Access, Judd and Chipper or Tyler on Sunday. Tyler? Tyler Forness from VikingsWire.com. And then Monday, back at it with some trenches with Boone. We got Purple Daily on draft, Drake May, and the Gophers.
Ayo.
For those of you that have moved into like scouting quarterbacks and draft picks,
Yeah.
Purple Daily on Draft is the place to be. It's the only daily, or I should say weekly, regular, year-round show that looks at Vikings and draft in the same sort of prism. So that'll be a can't-miss show Monday. All right, boys. Good stuff here. We're moving on to the Chargers, moving on to Los Angeles. The Chargers. Here at Purple Daily, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. All right, welcome into Stepping Up, presented by Federated Insurance, where we talk with next-generation business owners and business leaders about their process, about their philosophies, what challenges they face, and their vision for the future of business. And our guest on this episode is the Chief Operating Officer of the Minnesota Timberwolves, a man who has seen a lot of basketball and a lot of sports business the last 20 or 25 years, Ryan Tanke. Thank you for joining, Ryan.
Great to see you, Phil. Great to be here. Thank you for having me on. This is fun.
A friend of mine who's done some business leadership consulting throughout the last 20 years. And he's always said, everyone has a different definition of leadership. The way that he defines leadership is facilitating the success of your team, essentially. Do you have a way that you define leadership? Do you have any sort of like what is leadership to you, I guess?
Yeah, I think leadership is helping people unlock and achieve, things that they otherwise sometimes don't believe are possible. Sometimes they just need, help with a roadmap. So I think it's helping people unlock and achieve is sort of leadership. We talk all the time here, Phil, about, impact. And so I think the number one obligation and responsibility of a leader is like create impact. And I don't mean like on the business, I mean on the people, which is I look at two things every day are kind of by filter, which is one, who did I impact today? And two is how do I want to be remembered? And if I can, go through that impact and legacy aspects of this, oftentimes you're going to make the right decisions along the way.
Love it, man. Love to hear that, and appreciate your insights on business leadership. And yeah, Ryan, it was great catching up. Thanks for your time today, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Love doing it, and love to do it again sometime.
Ryan Tanke, the Chief Operating Officer of the Minnesota Timberwolves and Minnesota Lynx, here on Stepping Up, presented by Federated Insurance.